morning,
Morning.
and thank you for joining me. We're here at the U.S. Conference of Mayor, which you are a participant. You're from San Antonio,
San Antonio,
Texas.
Texas. That's right.
Yeah. Um, Talk to me about what you're doing in terms of the human capital, which is something that is very, very important right now, where with the labor workforce, um, skilling and reskilling. So, if you can talk about how you are empowering. I know you mentioned you work with the minority group, especially.
Absolutely.
So, just give us talk about that.
Absolutely. I'm happy to, and thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. I'm Mike Ramsey, Executive Director of Workforce Development at the City of San Antonio. And what we're doing is we're trying to put a dent in generational poverty. We are a majority minority city. There's a spirit within San Antonio where we take care of our own. So during the height of the pandemic, when the city was faced with a challenge of many people whose work was disrupted by travel shutting down, restaurants shutting down, and having to figure out a way to ensure that those individuals had a pathway to economic stability. So through the Ready to Work initiative, we're taking that 1/8 of a cent sales tax that was previously existing and diverting it to invest it within our most valuable resource, our people. So what the purpose of that investment is to equip those individuals who have been historically underserved, historically marginalized, with the education and skills that our local employer community is in need of in order to grow and expand their businesses. Because it is a win-win proposition when employers can quickly access a talented workforce base, and the people who are participating in that workforce that can development ecosystem are able to see that they can achieve a family sustaining wage if they've got the right credentials behind them. So we're working with our local employers. Over nearly 400 employers have taken our pledge to hire and support the Ready to Work initiative, and that is really the most critical element to ensuring that we don't build individuals a bridge to nowhere, but a bridge directly into employment. So we want to leverage our employer community to make sure that African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and other groups within our community who have been in a position
Marginalized.
where they have been historically marginalized to find a strong foothold through attainable resources, including the wraparound supports to help them to achieve their goals.
So, what you're doing is very, very important. It's something that the current administration, has been focused on from day one. We have the Secretary of Treasury, that, the labor aspects of the economic has been something that, she is the labor economics before. So I want you to talk about what sector, because when we talk about skilling, reskilling, providing credentials for marginalized community, oftentimes the criticism has been that oftentimes it always go back into low paying jobs, not jobs that move them into middle class. So, what sectors, what industry are you working with?
That's a great question and a great observation. In San Antonio, we're focused on healthcare as one of our primary industry sectors that individuals are being trained and skilled for. Our healthcare system, our hospitals are in desperate need of workers. And as hospitals have historically created pathways for individuals to enter into that space with a lower level of barrier as it relates to some of the entry level roles in healthcare, with the ability to stack those credentials over time to get into a place where they find a middle median wage employment opportunities within the healthcare sector. For instance, you can begin your pathway, as a clinical medical assistant, become a licensed practitioner practical nurse, move up and become a registered nurse with additional training and additional education and schooling, and then stack upon that registered nurse credential to become a BSN, and then ultimately you can set your limit wherever you wish, because there's so many opportunities within that healthcare sector, and stacking credentials and climbing that career ladder is a natural part of their ecosystem. Then we think about advanced manufacturing. We know that one of the priorities of this administration is to do more manufacturing activities here in the United States. And San Antonio is really leaning into that prospect by ensuring that individuals are equipped with the skills to be maintenance technicians, that they can quickly, again, enter into a space that has a large demand for employees, and then grow into a sector that has a median wage that is above the national norm. And if we can continue to find those industry sectors that have opportunities, that there is a greater demand than the talent supply exists right now, and bridge that skills gap that currently exists with the people who are looking for those type of opportunities, then the programs can be successful. But it truly has to be a pull from the employer side, because just educating and training individuals is not going to solve the issue of providing a pathway to economic mobility. The education and training has to be aligned. It is critical to what the employers truly need. Well, how do you determine what the employers truly need? You can look at the labor market information and data, but having them at the table, giving you firsthand information about what their hiring needs are today and what they will be in the future. So as individuals are choosing those pathways, it increases the likelihood of them finding gainful employment at a living wage level immensely.
So, you just talk about something very critical. It has to be a public-private partnership.
Absolutely.
Between the government and the private sector,
Correct.
which is the business sector. So, talk about how you're doing, how you are working with them on this.
Yes, it's a critical component to workforce development, is ensuring that the employer voice is heard. If you take the time to listen to them, they can articulate what their needs are. And then you can translate that information to the community-based organizations, the nonprofits that are working with individuals that may have had barriers to employment in the past, to ensure that they can become more attractive to those employers by equipping them with those right skills. So convening employers by industry sector. We work with some phenomenal partners in the economic development space within our city, that are convening employers around industry sectors so that they can discuss what their most critical needs are, really drill down to what the skills are that are necessary to grow that footprint and that occupation in our city, and then removing some of the barriers that may have historically kept people out, looking at degree requirements, trying to figure out if individuals are skilled through alternative routes, how they can then be valuable assets to companies, and then they can see that their workforce demand is being met just by looking in pools that they have historically overlooked in the past. Individuals with disabilities can be productive contributors to the workforce. If you have individuals who, I don't have that degree, but I've got so many work experiences where those skills are transferable with a little bit of support and a little bit of direction and open-mindedness from those hiring managers, those individuals can meet the demand that the employers have today.
Okay. One other aspect of this labor, as you mentioned, COVID truly highlighted,
Yeah.
is the food bank.
Mm-hmm.
The lines, we all saw it not
Yeah.
just in San Antonio,
Yeah.
all over the countries.
Yeah.
And, to really see America struggling. And there is still, even though the economic have picked up, there's still a lot of families that are struggling. Housing affordability is a huge part of that. And then you have the access to broadband, internet.
Yep.
And when we talk about reskilling, that's a huge part of that, applying for jobs.
Absolutely.
And, the group of mayors recently, the FCC recently sent a letter to Congress because the Affordable Broadband Program, we lose funding if it's not extended, if investment is not extended. And the group of mayors urge the Congress to renew, to add additional funding to that. So talk about why this is important
Yes.
to your program, to this economic mobility that you talk about.
Yeah, access to broadband and digital literacy are critical. The majority of jobs that are available in the labor market today in San Antonio and across the country have online, application processes that, can be a barrier for individuals who may only have access to a cell phone, that may not be able to upload documents such as resumes in an efficient manner, or not have the digital literacy skills to navigate through that process. So you can't skip that as you're dealing with individuals where they're at, helping them to have that foundation to make them, more marketable and have access to be able to even apply for those jobs if, that piece is not addressed. I've heard a stat recently that over 90% of the jobs that are available require some type of digital literacy. So we have to ensure that those are infused in our training programs. So you're not just getting the technical skills you need for that position, but the soft skills, also the communication skills that are necessary to be successful in the workforce, but also those digital literacy skills to make sure that you can actually be efficient in your role. And then you talked about earlier about some of the other challenges that communities are facing with housing, with transportation, with childcare availability is a huge issue in women being more predominantly impacted by having access to affordable quality childcare. All of those elements put together is what makes workforce development so challenging. But the investment that communities make in ensuring that a true pathway to upward economic mobility is there will pay huge dividends down the road. Because if people are connected to careers that have good jobs, that have benefits attached to them, such as healthcare, that have the opportunity for them to take paid time off, to be able to take care of their health care needs, and to be able to ensure that their family can, ensure that food and their rent can be paid. Access to housing is an issue that, can be the lack of access to housing that issue can be helped through people having access to good careers and good jobs. Transportation, individuals having access to transportation and good jobs helps to solve that. You talk about crime in our cities, in our communities. Those issues can be reduced if people have access to a good quality job. So we want to make sure that we're investing in our human capital in San Antonio to help to alleviate some of the major pain points that cities are facing across the country.
So, can you talk about some of the challenges that you're seeing in implementing this?
Yeah, some of the biggest challenges as we roll this program out throughout San Antonio is, number one, ensuring that people who need the program most hear about it, know about it, and feel confidence in their local government that there's no catch, there's no strings attached. We're just here to assist and help. And you overcome those barriers by connecting to organizations that they already have developed a level of trust with, those nonprofits and CBOs within the community that they've already developed a rapport, and utilizing them to help to guide them through that intake process to make it so that, that can efficiently and more streamlined get access to the resources that are available. Anytime you're rolling out programs like this, it's the most critical component is ensuring that you have community trust and buy-in. Some of the other issues that we're facing, again, when helping individuals with lots of barriers to employment, is that it takes time. And helping them to get to a point to where they're building up their own self-confidence, to recognize that, hey, I do belong, that I have an opportunity to contribute to companies that are looking for me, that need me, and are going to welcome me into their environment, is something that we also have to devote a lot of energy and time working with to ensure that those individuals go through that interview process with confidence and don't feel like I'm not really good enough, or they don't really want me. And that is not the case whatsoever. We have nearly 400 employers that are committed to hiring them once they finish their education and training programs. So building up that confidence, mental health issues has been a challenge here. It's been one of those things that the pandemic has, really magnified during this time, and helping people to get to a place where, their mental health can be stabilized as they go on this journey, and allowing the individuals and the organizations in our community to access this population to address those needs as they arise is critical. And then I think, on the other side, ensuring that employers understand the benefit of hiring a diverse and inclusive workforce, what it has to their bottom line. Like, it is not a social service for an employer to hire from pools that they typically have not. It is a business decision, and we're finding that some employers particularly with the re-entering citizen population. Justice-involved individuals are showing that they can be very positive contributors and can perform at a level that exceeds their non-justice-involved peers. We found that with an employer in our manufacturing space that has used it as a competitive advantage. When other employers were having trouble finding talent and filling their vacancies, they targeted those individuals who were returning to our community that were previous justice system involved, and then found that their performance evaluations were better than their non-justice involved peers, and their retention rates were much higher because they were so grateful to have a true living wage job that they could take care of themselves and their families with.
And what you talk about just regarding giving everyone an equal opportunity is being attacked now on a national level. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this conference have addressed that also. So how are you working to ensure, like within your government, that this will remain? It's not something that when you guys leave office, it will be wiped out.
Yeah, and I think that's a vital component to having that long-term impact that you want to see in a program like this. And I think how you overcome that is with results. If the business community is happy because they're getting access to talent at a higher rate, diverse talent at a high rate, and their business needs are being met, then they will rally to ensure that our community is entrenched in this workforce development space for a long term into the future, because it's so important for their success, which is important for the community, the individual community member success, if our businesses can grow and thrive. So we're taking the business approach to why this investment, why these efforts are going to continue even in light of an attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We know that if every member of our community has opportunity, then it's only going to make our community stronger overall.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.